Hey guys, it's Freddie here from Draft Nights. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? If so, Anchor is the easiest way to do so. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. There's a creation tool that allows you to record and edit your podcast either on your phone or your computer. Anchor allows you to distribute your podcast all over social media, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. You can make money off your podcast with no minimum listenership. So it has everything you need to get started. If you want to join the podcast family, all you have to do is download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. See you soon. And boom, baby. Hey, guys, welcome to Draft Nights, your place to listen to sports news and pop culture. We are on Anchor, iTunes, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast Podcasts, and Radio Public, and on YouTube. And on today's show, we have Tara Devlin. She is the founder of RDT show.
RDT Daily, yes.
Yeah, RTD Daily. And she's a writer, she's a comedian, and she is also a director. Am I right?
No, I have a show myself. I'm not a director.
She directs
I guess
herself.
I could be a director. Yeah.
She directs herself, people. She directs herself.
Right. I could give it a shot if somebody wanted me.
All right. Well, Tara, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Or well, or however you would, whatever is grammatically correct. I guess I'm well and good. And, considering what's going on in the world, I don't know. We certainly live in interesting times, that's for sure. And
that is for sure.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people are struggling, and also what you do with your podcast and what I do with my show, Tara Buster, we I think it provides a great outlet for people to stay connected. So thank you for
Absolutely
putting yourself out there. That's for sure. It's
needed. You're welcome. No problem. All right, so how about this weather? We are both from the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
From New York. I am from Jersey. How about this weather? Finally, right?
Right. Well, I haven't really. It's sort of like I can see it out my window. I haven't been out much. I went out for a bike ride the other day. That was about it. I go out for supplies and come back home. I mean, I'm in Queens. I live a mile from, well, I guess what's considered ground zero here in the pandemic in New York City. I'm about a mile from Elmhurst Hospital, where all of the in the early days of the pandemic, which were just a few months ago now, most people, there was a lot of people losing their lives, unfortunately. And so I know we have it more under control now, but we're still not out of the woods. So I see what's going on in the rest of the country, and it's really disheartening. And right before we went on the air here, I saw that they're in Texas just recorded their worst day and they're already opening up the state, as far as I know. So it's really going to get worse before it gets better. I don't know. So where are you in New Jersey?
I am from Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Okay. And how are things for you? Have you been going out? Or no, I mean, I hope that you're following all of the social distancing. I mean, if it's really for real. I mean, I know some people that passed away. I don't personally, they're not my cousin is a nurse practitioner and her husband's a doctor, and he's a surgeon, so they're both kind of on the front lines. And it's not only old people that are getting it, and also passing away from it. And I know somebody personally that's 34 years old. I mean, this is not I know nobody wants to really keep I don't want to bring the show down or anything, but yeah, you got to really take it seriously. So anyway, how are you?
Yeah. So So Jersey, it's been frustrating. I know, like I've felt frustrated with it before,
Mm-hmm.
with it. I'm one of those people that, I would say like once I get sick, then it's like a real thing. But like if not,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
because like throughout my whole life, I never got sick from anything.
That's great. You're very.
So
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, I felt, my mom would say, she would come after me and she would say, like, why you don't do this? Why you don't do that? And I'm just like, Ma, I don't need it because I don't feel like I need it right now. Like once I need it, I need it. So like, but it was funny because I have a daughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
3-year-old daughter. I never got the flu in my life, right? And she didn't have the flu. But when you have children,
right,
and they get sick or they sneeze, they don't realize not to sneeze in your face.
Exactly. Yes.
So, so she did that one weekend that I had her, and when she was sick and I was taking care of her,
right.
I gave her medicine, like that. Like, but just like over the counter stuff, it wasn't like too big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
But she gave me the flu. Even yeah. So I was sick like a dog, man. I thought I was gonna die that week.
Yeah, I know.
But
right.
But I survived it, and then I just once I got out of it, I was like, wow, man, I feel like if I can survive that, I can survive. But in Jersey, this is what we're doing. We're sort of opening up and sort of not.
Right.
But the thing is that if we go into a store, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we go into a liquor store, we go into a restaurant, X, Y, and Z, we have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
But outside of that, you don't have to wear a mask.
Right. As long as you're, I mean, I wasn't wearing a mask when I was riding my bike, but it's sort of, you're wearing the mask for the other people too. It's really for the community. So you don't spread it to them. And you don't know, because people are walking around with when they're carrying it, but they're not showing any symptoms. That's what's so devious about it, because some people are carriers and they're just feeling fine going around and spreading it to everyone. And it is highly contagious. I mean, I guess the one good thing is that it's not airborne, but if you're breathing, if you're talking to somebody, that's what the mask helps. It will be expelled from your mouth as you're talking, and you're
through your breath.
Yeah, and so that's why the mask will help when you're with other people outside. It's really, I mean, it's a courtesy thing too, and in my opinion as well. I mean, everything that's going on in this country. I mean, my show is a political talk show, so I'm a comedian, but I'm also a political commentator and a flaming socialist. So anyway, and other things, including, I'm a veteran. I haven't been to war. I've been to a lot of fake wars, but I was in the National Guard. I was, I mean, it's my show was, I started my website, Republican Dirty Tricks, in 2009 because I guess I was feeling frustrated about this country and the politics of this country. I really feel that we have lost our way in many ways, including the patriotic notion. It's not even a notion. I mean, it is patriotism to leave nobody behind. I don't understand. I mean, the whole I got mine, mentality that's going on in this country. And like you're saying with wearing the masks, we're wearing them for not just for us, because we are in this together. We're wearing it for our communities. And there's so many, what I wish, see, I'm a progressive, so I feel that we should leave nobody behind. Like, just like when I was in the National Guard and we used to drill on, we would have, I did a lot of training exercises. One of them was about leaving no one behind. And we literally had to carry people off of the battlefield, and they had to play like they were wounded, and you had to carry your own weight off the battlefield. Whoever it was, they had to be your weight. So because I'm 6 feet tall, I carried a guy on my back and up a hill and to where the exercise ended. But as we were running, and as I was running with this guy on my back, he was in my ear yelling, "You can do it, you can do it, you got this," as difficult as it was. And that to me that's the spirit of America. When somebody is injured or sick, we don't leave them behind. And that's why it's so frustrating, and it's honestly depressing watching this country being torn apart by people who are just screaming at each other, screaming in each other's faces. They want to open the country because they're afraid of losing their businesses. They're afraid of not being able to pay their bills. I get it. But they're angry at the wrong things. The fact is, all over the world right now, other countries, they are paying their people to stay home. And you don't see food lines in any other country, or the kind of divisive protests in any other country but this country. But because we have the government right now is not fulfilling its duty to the people, in my opinion. So anyway, that's why my show is called Parabuster, because it's like a filibuster. But anyway,
right. No, I hear what you're saying.
Mm-hmm,
I hear what you're saying. He really isn't doing much to help out the citizens and everything. I mean, they should have. I mean, it's quite simple. Did you hear that rant from that comedian? I think his name is Vic. Vic something, but he went on.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. You know, it was a viral video of him screaming into. I saw it.
Exactly. Yeah, but he was just talking about. He was just saying, like, why don't we, for renters and for people who have a mortgage and stuff like that, why don't the government just say, hey, listen, to the banks, just like, listen, we're putting a rent freeze, or we're putting a mortgage freeze for as long as this thing takes, right? So you guys, you bankers and everything like that, you cannot charge the mortgage fees, and so that the homeowners can't charge rent, right?
Absolutely.
Right, for X amount of months, and then you put those months that were out, well, let's say not missing, but like the months that homeowners are not paying towards the back of the loan.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So that instead of, you have
you're giving
you're
giving a moratorium on mortgage and rent payments. That makes perfect sense. But all over the world, this is what they are doing. There is no they're talking about we are on the verge of another Great Depression, because people are losing their jobs because of the pandemic, but also businesses are going out. They're not going to be able to sustain it. When they had the Paycheck Protection Act, the big banksters and all the big corporations that are already making buku bucks, these are the most profitable corporations in the history of Earth. Okay, so they took advantage of this relief package when they shouldn't have. But it's like a smash and grab in this country. Now, there is absolutely no reason for any small business to be going out of business. And one of the things I like to do on my show is we talk about what is going on in the rest of the world as well, to compare. It's a disgrace that there's any business going out of business. That's not happening in Italy. That's not happening in New Zealand or England, Canada. I mean, pick a country. No other country is this happening. Right now in Italy, they are slowly reopening. Italy was the first country to shut down. There's no food
Right.
riots. There's no food banks. People online for miles and miles at food banks. And then the thing that really frustrates me too is the corporate media and I saw Chris Christie on some corporate media show, and he was saying how he's pretending to care with these crocodile tears about some woman who was saying, "Oh, I feel like I failed. I'm not able to pay my mortgage," while she was on a line at a food bank. That's not the tears we should be shedding. We should be shedding the tears for the fact that the government is neglectful. It's not doing its duty to the people, and it has the people out there thinking they did something wrong. There should be nobody online at a food bank because everybody should be getting their paychecks. If they're able to do it in every other country, then why aren't we able to do it here? This is a choice that is being made right now by those in power, and we need to. I understand the anger of the protesters, I do, but they need to get angry at the right things. They shouldn't be angry at even the governor for shutting down the state. That's not the anger. Get angry at the bought and paid for politicians. The fact that this government is owned by corporations, which is the definition of fascism, by the way. So I feel that we have, I mean, it's almost insurmountable. Sometimes I feel very despondent because it gets me frustrated that people aren't angry at the right things. It's not it's not, don't get angry at the pandemic. Don't get angry at people who are saying you shouldn't be going to work. They like for example, the Republicans are they always hold out the Swedish model. They say, "Oh, we should follow the Swedish model in this pandemic." The Swedish model is because the Swedes kept their businesses open. Okay. So but they also in Sweden, okay, let's follow the Swedish model, but let's not just pick and choose what we want to follow. You can't say that let's follow the Swedish model and then this country not have universal health care. Right.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. But what's the Swedish model? For those who don't know, because you're just bringing this up now. What is the Swedish model
in regard to the pandemic? This is what the Republicans are bringing it up. They're talking because the Swedes kept businesses open, okay, during the pandemic. Okay. They also followed strict social distance, and they kept not all businesses. They had to follow, strict.
Like essential ones.
Many restaurants but the Swedes have an extremely strong social safety net where you don't. Right. They had more to lose by going out than they did by staying home. So they stayed home. Many stayed home. They didn't have to be told to stay home because they understand in their social safety net that not only do they have universal health care, where if they get sick, regardless of whether it's the coronavirus or not, they won't have to go bankrupt, unlike this country. But if their job closes, they also have, if they can't find a job, they get full unemployment benefits. They are paid up to 80% of their full salary for a year. And if they can't find a job in a year, the government puts them to work. They get a government job like we used to have in this country. We used to have the CCC, the WPA, that put people to work. So you can't just say, let's do this, but not, okay, let's do it. I would love to follow the Swedish model, but let's take the Swedish model and you can't just go cafeteria style on it. They're successful because they also understand that what we were talking about earlier, that we're in this together. They have a real community spirit that we don't have here in this country anymore. It's dog eat dog. It's everybody at each other's throats here. And you can't have a functioning democracy like that. I'm sorry. You have to understand that we're all in this together. That's what the founders for all their racism and misogyny. We'll put that on the shelf for a second. But yeah, all right. But they pledge their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor to each other. And that's why this thing, which the grand experiment in liberal democracy, that's what it's called. It was successful because they overthrew an intergenerational aristocracy and a king, and there's nothing more progressive than that. And they understood, like Ben Franklin, we hang together or we hang separately, and it's that spirit that where they're allowed, they like in Sweden, in every other country, they're not in fear if they have a sickness, that if they go to the doctor, they're gonna, if it's not coronavirus, they're gonna be hit with bills. And on top of it, that's the other problem, with this coronavirus too, is that another reason it's spread here is because people delay care in the United States, because it's like, oh, can I afford to go to the doctor? Or exactly. Nope. Can I afford the copay? Can I afford the co-insurance, the deductible, the in-network item? I mean, it's just a ridiculous system, and it's not set up. Yeah, it's not set up for the health of the people, and it's so frustrating to me. And then you hear the politicians bemoan a broken society. Oh, we're so divided in this country. Well, we're divided partly because they divide us. What's that?
Of you? Yeah, because if there was a politician that said, we're divided in this country, I was like,
that's right.
We're divided because
divide us along. They divide us along racial lines, along economic lines. They like to keep us fighting amongst each other. Even when the Democrats, during the Democratic debates, the primary process, the thing that would piss me off the most, because I was for Bernie, and I'm for Medicare for all, I'm for universal higher education, because I see this goes on in every other country, but here. So when the Democrats would say, oh, well, you want universal health care, what about all the millions of Americans who are going to lose their private health insurance, and the union members who negotiated for their their union benefits? But so you're saying that, okay, so the 12.5 million union members in this country, which we used to have 35% unionization in this country when we actually had a country that worked for all, not just the 1%. Now it's down to 7%. Okay, so you're talking about, and that was by design. They don't like an uppity working class. So the people in power, who bought the politicians, who write the laws. You know what I mean? So the unions, the way that the Democrats pretend to care about the unions, the union medical benefits. That's another way for the bosses to control the workers. As you see, when they go on strike, what happened? GM went on strike. They immediately stopped their benefits, their health benefits, as a pressure point against the unions. So it's like we're going back to a system that the founders rebelled against, where you used to have to find, a rich lord to serve who would sprinkle some benefits on you. Like, this is like a neo-feudal corporate state, where and then if you don't, you lose you lose the service to your lord. You have to go find another lord who will sprinkle or trickle some benefits on you. You know what I mean? So anyway, that doesn't happen in any other country, because these are the points that they, when they say that, we care about, we don't want people to lose their private health insurance. That's where we're against Medicare for all. It doesn't make any sense because,
Well, it makes sense. Well, it makes
Okay.
sense. This is how it makes sense. You know why? How it makes sense? Because these companies, these insurance companies, they
Right.
pay our politicians, especially Democratic
That's right.
politicians,
Well, that's
to
a
think
talking
that
point.
way.
Absolutely. That's
That,
a,
yeah,
a
that's
right.
all it is. They spin it to make it look like, but they spin it to make it look like they're gonna, that there's gonna be
Right.
more harm than good. When actually, if you had any sense, you
Right.
would see the
Absolutely.
opposite of it. You would be able to see through that, but not many people do.
Mm-hmm.
And like they just like I was talking to
Yes.
Ron Placone.
Mm-hmm.
Have you
Mm-hmm.
ever heard of Ron Placone? So he was on the show, and we was talking about a lot of politics and stuff like that. But majority in the beginning, usually I would talk. We would talk about yourself, where you're from. We
Mm-hmm.
get to know you and stuff like that before we get into politics. But what we're gonna do is gonna do the opposite. In the end, we're gonna get to know
Oh,
all
okay.
about you, where you're
Sure,
from,
sure.
and why you
That's
got
fine.
started. Okay, so that's why we're gonna flip
Right.
it. So that's how I'm gonna flip it. So yeah, like we was talking, me and Ron Placone, we was talking about the same
Mm-hmm.
exact things, and he was just saying how, because I try not to, like I tend to stay
Right.
away from political debates, but also like because
Right.
I love sports and I
Yes.
love pop culture, like I love I love TV series, I love like
Right.
90s stuff, movies and stuff like that. So I really like enjoying
I
this
hear you.
and talk about that because
Yeah.
politics is so
Yeah.
divisive, and people just don't get it. And as far as you keep saying like you're a progressive and everything like that too, and like I'm a progressive too. I listen to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
TYT. I listen to I listen
Right.
to Nicole
Cool.
Sandler. I listen to secular talk with Kyle Kalinske and everything like that. So like I hear everyone and I want to speak my mind about it, but like there's not a lot of
Yeah.
people
I
that's
hear
getting
you.
it. My thing is like what we're asking for. What I feel as though progressives
Mm-hmm.
need to do
You
is
need
we need to run for
say
office.
again.
It's
Say
plain.
again. You need to what?
That's it. We, progressives
Oh
need
yeah.
to run
Mm-hmm.
for office.
Mm-hmm.
We need to run for office, and we also we need to help each
Yes.
other out through all that. The same effect that Bernie
Mm-hmm.
Sanders had support. We need to be able to do that in our own
Yeah.
our own state. Like if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter, find a group or build a group that is in your state, right? Bernie supporters of New Jersey, Bernie supporters of New York, Bernie
Mm-hmm.
supporters of wherever, right? Get into that group, right? Try to infiltrate it. Try to get in contact with the administrator, right, or whoever runs the group, and say, "Hey guys, we have to come together here. And if we're a group in this state, right? There's a bunch of us. There could be 100 of us. There could be 1,000 of us. Hey man, we need to work together.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we need to work together." And either run for office, run for Senate, run
Yes.
for state governor office, run for your mayor or whatever. We need to come together, put our money together, and run for office. No ifs, ands, or buts about it, because this complaining stuff is
Right.
getting
I
us
hear you.
nowhere.
But there's also, this
Okay.
isn't what we're doing. I don't feel it's complaining. I think it's spreading the paradigm. It's it's spreading the good news about progressivism. Okay. What I do on my show is we talk about reclaiming the mantle of patriotism and reframing these debates as the patriotic imperatives that they are. If people don't know, they don't know that the USA is now the least upwardly mobile of all of our Western partners, even more least upperly mobile, less upperly mobile than England, and they have a queen. So that means that if you're born poor in this country, you're more likely to stay poor than in any other of the Western developed democracies. And that used to be the exact opposite 40 years ago. But people do not understand it. They are misinformed about that. They think that all you got to do is work hard and play by the rules. No, There's not enough hours in the day for you to work hard and play by the rules to get a seat at the table than right now. If you're not being paid a living wage, if you're not having, you know what I mean? You don't have a baseline anymore. Like my father, who was he was a beneficiary of the New Deal after World War II. We had this country for 40 years ran on progressive policies that built the middle class, and that included a strong unionized workforce, included high marginal tax rates on the rich, which prevented an intergenerational aristocracy. So you could be rich in the country, but you couldn't be so rich like a Bezos or whatever, or Sheldon Adelson, where you were so rich that you could buy politicians and corrupt government. And we also had laws, stronger laws against, for campaign finance. I mean, all these things, one little thing at a time, one deregulated policy at a time. And here we are, where now for the first time, this is another thing recently I read, and it just happened this year, the middle class is now below, for the first time since the first Gilded Age, 100 years ago, the middle class is now below 50% of the population. So they all talk about, middle class, meritocracy. That's bullshit. That's a bullshit frame. The middle class, that should be on the top breaking news of every corporate media story, but of course it's not. They don't have an interest in that. They have an interest in, of course, selling advertising, and I mean, they're really not. They're not in our best interest. This is why what you do, what I do, what Ron Placone does, the real media, you do it. You have your sports show, and you talk about, and that's equally valid. So you having me on the show. Some people might hear this message. They don't know for the first time. Maybe they heard this for the first time, that there's the middle class is now below 50% of the population. They're like, holy crap. And they look it up. And look it up. It is one of my most frustrating points in life that I turn on all of these giant media platforms that have millions of viewers. They have large bullhorns, they have large reach, and they don't talk about it. And but then
they don't want to talk. They don't talk about it because they
don't have an interest in talking about it. They don't want anything. They like the way it's running. They don't want anybody getting any ideas.
They don't want it to change because they're doing well at it.
Yes.
Things are going well for them, so they don't want to change it.
Exactly.
Why would you want to change anything?
It's everything, and that's why it's this whole every man and woman for themselves thing. I got mine. Oh well, that has to change in this country, and this is why when I was talking about the Democrats saying, "Oh well, what about the people who are going to lose their private insurance or their union insurance?" So you're telling me because there are 12.5 million union members in the country, which is really pathetically low. Okay. And that in itself is a disgrace. The Democrats should be working on upping union membership, but that's a whole other story. And so, okay.
Well, it all depends. It all depends because I was in a union. And I never saw like the head of the union come to my workplace and stuff like that. Even though I asked a couple of times, and I was working at a place where I was a union member. I knew the union leader of the business that I was working for. Like I was seeing him and talk to him all the time. But the people upstairs or wherever, he worked for the company. Like he didn't work for the union. He worked for the company. So he would just tell the union, wherever their headquarters is, whatever. He was like, "Hey, these guys want to see you. Can you come?"
They never came.
Right? They never came. Right? Yeah. So, and I was there for 2 years, and they never came. So, conservatives will come and hear this and say, "You see, this is why unions are back. They're,
right. So
they're
who
not
was
representing
what
you guys."
union was this?
Like, well,
Okay.
it was a steel union. I know for sure because I'm a truck driver,
right.
and my first 2 years of driving, I worked for a company that I deliver steel for this company.
Right.
So
right.
I had to be in the union. And, they did whatever they did. I don't know. I didn't do anything to need a union, but
right. Well,
it was
I mean,
me,
sometimes
so
the thing with the union is that it raises the base for everyone. So we had a time. There was a 40-year period in this country called the Great Prosperity after World War II, when we had a booming union membership of 35%. But that meant that even if you weren't in a union, they set the base. So that's why people got a larger. Yeah, so even if you work for a private company, they had to compete with the union because there was, they set the baseline in a sense for competition. And even if you weren't in a union, they, you still had benefits from the union. But the thing is, because the reason why the bosses, I don't know the particular stories, of course, in your particular situation, and there are people that disparage unions. There is corruption in unions. Because people are involved. Any way you look, you will have when people are involved. There will be problems. There will be people taking advantage. There will be people that maybe aren't, have the best interests. But overall, that doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? So,
you take out the bad and you leave what's good, and you focus on making it better.
The thing with unions, I mean, we used to have as far as there was this notion in America where the American dream was you too can have a decent middle class life. Now it's, you could be a billionaire too. Maybe, I guess, I don't know, if you're lucky, which is why we have now the lowest paid worker to the CEO is now, I don't know, I think it used to be like 25 to 1. Now it's over 400. They get paid over 400 times the lowest worker, which means that because of laws and the way the tax laws are structured and all of you now pay a lower tax rate if you're investing than if you're earning a salary, you're making a living. And so it's that the gap between rich and poor is so wide that that's because of policy. It's not because somebody like Jeff Bezos, he had an innovative idea. He created a new, he shifted the paradigm of how we consider, now everybody wants their packages in 2 days and whatnot, things like that. But you can't tell me that out of that profitable company, he can't pay his taxes. That Amazon paid 0 taxes last year. 0. Yes. And
federal,
their workers, you can't tell me that they don't deserve to earn a piece of the pie that their labor makes possible. And, it really comes down to what is the meaning of an economy? What is the meaning of life ultimately? But what's the meaning of an economy? Is it so we can all work our asses off for nothing? And so some people, a few at the top, can get really rich? That's not the system that the founders entrusted to us. That's the system they overthrew, where you had yes.
Right. So Tara, you're telling me all of the problems, right? But you also said
yes,
you have some good news.
The good news. The good news is that
what's the good news?
We've done this before. We had a time in American history called the Great Prosperity. That meant that the prosperity was shared amongst the majority of the people, and we can do it again if we have the political will to fight. And you have to, it's not a secret. You know, you up the tax rates on the rich. You set a high marginal tax rate, so we don't have an intergenerational aristocracy. And you ensure you have to regulate these kind of policies, so we all get a piece of the pie. The middle class that we had was not created because some billionaires felt like trickling it on us. You know what I mean? Even everything from the weekend to the 8-hour workday came from died. People died for it. So that's what when I talk about on my show is reclaiming these progressive policies as patriotic imperatives. It's not just the right thing to do to raise. So we used to have a high marginal tax rate on the rich. We had under Eisenhower, this country's the marginal tax rate meant after a certain amount of money, you could still make 25 million, whatever it was. Over a certain amount, when you got to, let's say, $1 billion, you would have to pay 90%. The tax rate after a certain amount was 90%. So that meant that money went back into the economy, and that went back into workers and up their salaries, and the standard of living increased for everyone else. So that's the thing that frustrates me when I listen to some progressives like AOC and Bernie. It makes sense to me. Why don't we just do what we've already done, what Eisenhower did, what FDR did? But we have to frame them as the patriotic imperatives as they are. It's not just about being fair, paying your fair share, having the rich pay their fair share. I hear that a lot. It's about maintaining a functioning democracy, and because you can't have a democracy and concentrated wealth in the hands of a few at the same time. They don't coexist together. So you have to make a choice. So that's the good.
Okay, so again, all right. So the good news is we have we have these policies already. So we could just go back. And look them up.
I mean, it's going to be fighting, kicking, and screaming. They didn't dismantle these policies overnight. You know what I mean? So it's
so Tara,
we have. First of all, in my opinion, yes, it's great. We have a lot of young, like you're saying, representatives, people running for office. The young progressives, young people themselves this is the millennial generation. They are the most progressive, because I think that this world, it's such a small world now because of the internet, that young people, they don't believe the bullshit. Yeah. They don't hear the scaremongering about universal health care. It leads to Nazism or whatever. This is what we were hearing when we were fighting over the ACA. The young people don't believe that shit because they go right on the internet. They have friends in other countries. You can get right on there and FaceTime with them immediately. They're not living in.
Right. I'm actually gonna talk to somebody who is from
it's this world,
South Korea.
Exactly. This is such a small world now that you could just go see for yourself. You have friends in all different countries now, and they're a phone call away. They're a FaceTime away. So what I do, people say to me a lot, they say, you should run for something or whatever. The thing is, what I do on my show, my show Tara Buster on Progressive Voices, is on iTunes, it's on YouTube and blah blah blah, and everywhere else. This is necessary too. What we do, having a podcast, having the thing that the right wingers know, is over the past 30 years, they understood this. They have taken over the media, all different mediums, from the lowest YouTuber to the halls of Fox News. That's why they will take some YouTuber, a right winger, and put them on Fox News. Like, that's how you got Tommy Lauren. That's how you got Diamond and Silk. Because even in the big media, the big megaphone mouthpiece, Fox News, they understand that their message has to be ubiquitous. It has to be everywhere. And they promote it. In fact, the Mercer family, it's a billionaire right-wingers, bunch of, they hate unions, they hate the working class, the whole thing. These are the right out of the Gilded Age, the first Gilded Age, robber barons of the worst type. They gave Breitbart, Andrew Breitbart, who started that, he started Breitbart.com. He died, right? He's dead now, whatever. But his legacy lives on. That started as a little website. And the Mercer family gave Breitbart $6 million to fund his website. So they bought a townhouse in DC.
Right.
They hired a staff, and now they have tentacles in the White House. So that the right wingers understand the power of media, and that they needed media, and this is why they created Fox News. Fox News was never turned a profit for 5 years. They poured $500 million into it. It wasn't, but because profit wasn't in the business model, it was the idea was to get their message out there, to keep people fighting amongst each other, to get union, even working people. My father, who was a union sanitation worker, he was a Teamster. He gave money to the Republican Party. He was a victim of these bastards. He would listen to Rush Limbaugh on his AM radio in his car. And he and I used to have arguments about it. And he bought into that shit. Buying the whole line that they were being told that the problems in this country came because some people were taking advantage. And you know what that means. That's code for black people, right? So some were taking advantage, and welfare queens, and these things of dividing people.
Yeah, it's funny too. I used to get into arguments with conservatives when they bring up those people that the welfare queens and stuff like that. And I would always say, all right, hold on. And I would get into arguments with my other family, with some of my family, not all of them, it was two in particular. And I was like, and they bring up a story saying how there was someone who was taking advantage of the welfare system, and they got caught. And I was like, oh, hold on. She was like, and they was like, I can't stand these people. We should cut these things in X, Y, and Z, right? I was like, hold on. How much taxes do you pay that go into a welfare system? Right. So I looked at my own.
Nominal.
Right. It was like $1 and some change. Yeah. Right. It's like $1 and some change a month. Right. And then I was like, all right. Now, how much? And these corporate. I was like, all right. Now let's look at. At these welfare queens. What about the corporate welfare? Have we ever corporate welfare? And then she was like, "What's corporate welfare?" I was like, "Well, Amazon, who has been making billions or even trillions. Yep. I think it's going into trillions, right? Like going into trillions right now. He's not paying not $1 in federal taxes. How much did you pay last year in federal taxes? How much did you personally pay on federal taxes?
He paid nothing. In fact, he got back. I was like, all right, he didn't pay anything. Paid him.
He got back. Right. So I was like, so why are you mad at this person that's taking $1 from you every week or every month or whatever it is? $1. $1. Okay. To get out of, and then I tell her to get out of your way.
Yes.
Okay. Because these people are not in your way. They're not holding you back. If you want a job, you could go out and get a job. You know what I'm saying? Would you rather like that? getting one check for like, I don't know,
Right.
$1,000 or $800 one time for that whole month, or do you want to make
Right.
like 4 or
Exactly.
5,000 or 2,000?
Mhm.
Would you want $800 or 2 or 3,000? Do you want? And then I'll tell her, how bored have you been home
Right.
throughout this whole pandemic? How bored have you been, right? And then she goes, I'm going crazy out
Right.
here. We're like, all right, do you want that for the rest of your life? Do you want? Because they're not doing
Right.
anything. Are they doing the same things you're doing? No, they're not going out. They're not going
Right.
to freaking Six Flags. They're not going to the movies. They're not traveling the world. They're really not.
Right.
And if they are, they're doing something else. They're probably selling, those other people probably selling drugs. Those people are doing that. They're doing something to make extra money. But whenever I see someone who has food stamps or whatever in front of me, right? They have a child or whatever, and they have more food than I do in my
Right.
shopping cart.
Yeah, you don't
I
know
don't
the
let it
story
bother
there.
me.
You don't know
whatever.
the full what goes
I'm like,
on. But here, the thing about welfare, that's a divisive
exactly.
tactic. And what you're telling me, of course, it works. People say, "Oh, these cheats." It's a way to
Right.
keep us working people, average people, fighting amongst each other over the scraps. Yeah. Instead of turning our
That
anger
must
where
be
it belongs.
lower than-
And
Yep.
there's no bigger welfare queens.
Mhm.
Well, come to think of it, not just Amazon, but not the Mercer family, with the Walton
Yeah.
family, the Mercers too, but the Walton family, this billionaire
Right.
family that owns Walmart, which is this company that is devastating to
Right.
communities. Yeah, and they
We all know-
have the
yeah, they
most
are.
people on public assistance. They actually encourage, because they pay such a pittance. They can't afford to pay a living wage for the workers. But if that's not a welfare queen, that's a whole welfare royal family we got going on. But the thing is, the welfare queen,
Right.
this story is mostly apocryphal. It's not real. It's a stereotype. There was one woman who committed prolific welfare fraud but she was a sociopath. She was a con artist, like Twitler. He's a con artist. And the truth is, I mean, she came up with different identities and things like that. Most people, they don't do that. That's somebody who's sick. And the fact is, every dollar that goes into public assistance returns $1.60 into the economy, meaning that person who gets food stamps, or they get whatever, an extra $16 of something money, they're spending it. They're keeping the economy going. So, and in fact, more than somebody like a Mercer family, the welfare royal family, who they're not spending. There's six. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Do you think the amount of money that these corporations that they don't pay for, they don't pay the federal taxes and stuff, do you think the amount of money they are saving could pay for the welfare of
I don't know
people
what
on
the statistics are, but I know that. Yeah. Let's see.
That's a good question. I think we go look into that, because then, right? Because we could even drop it less. So we could say, hey, so you complaining about 50 cents out of your check, right? And while this is the whole thing. I feel as though there needs to be, right? Not only because I'm not saying that you're complaining or anything like that. Well, I'm saying that these are all the problems that we have, right? These are all the problems that we have, and we need to fix them, right? We need to fix them. Now, how do we fix them, Tara? How do we fix them?
What we have to do is reclaim the conversation, right? That's what the right wingers, they understand that. Well, we have to reclaim and reframe these things. It's not just welfare. It's not just a nice thing to do. It is a patriotic imperative to leave nobody behind. What kind of a country leaves people on the battlefield? We don't leave them on the battlefield. Literally, we don't leave them behind in sickness, in poverty. It is the testament of a functioning society that whether you have to work really hard to be poor, like in other countries, like in Sweden. I have a friend who's living in Sweden right now because she couldn't get, she has rheumatoid arthritis and she lives in Georgia. So she lived there, but she left. She got offered a job in Sweden, but she moved and she stays there because she can't afford to be well here in the United States. It's too expensive. So she needs medication.
Right.
And she couldn't get it here in the United States. And she would either have to live in pain, suffering, or she took a job in another country that has universal health care. And she lives in Sweden. And she says that, of course, this is just her experience, but it is, one anecdote. And she's one anecdote. She said, there's a lot of, regulations there. Like when she got there, within 90 days, she had to prove she had insurance. Because there in Sweden, they actually have private companies administering the insurance, but they're not for profit. Like we have here, they're for profit. We're the only country that has for-profit healthcare. So the Swedes have not for profit. They're private companies administering it, but they are non-profit. So it's like Medicare in a sense, where Medicare has like a 2% overhead, and these other corporations, these for-profit companies, have like a 16% over. I mean, it's just ridiculous. They need to pay their CEOs millions of dollars, blah blah blah. But there's other things, like if she's in her car, she has to have certain gear in the car that's mandated, like. She has to have a blanket. She has to have, in case something happens, she's stuck. She has to have hazards, a certain type of hazard light, things like that. But that's partly a big.
Okay.
Right.
So that's because Sweden is like up north, right? In Europe, so when it's like really, it could get really freaking cold.
They would rather you not be turned into a corpse, so but anyway, but the whole thing is, she says, coming from Georgia, she could see, people, it could be kind of annoying sometimes, but ultimately there is a community spirit that we don't have anymore, that everybody is in it together. And that's why Sweden can remain open in a pandemic, that many businesses can still operate in a pandemic, because they respect each other. You don't have people spitting in other people's faces. You don't have assholes going to supermarkets and spitting on the fruit like they're doing here because they're pissed off that they have been told to stay home. And everything turns into a battle of left and right, and it's partly because we don't have these universal programs. Something like universal healthcare, universal higher education, universal living wages. Now, this country, it used to be you worked your whole life, you could retire in security. Now, third of the American people can't retire. That's the mark of a failed system, right? So we have to educate people and also let them know that it doesn't have to be this way. And real patriots, this is a patriotic thing. We don't leave people behind. If you love this country, you don't leave your fellow countrymen behind, whether they be in sickness or in poverty or whatever it might be, because we are in this together. There's nothing. Go ahead.
You wanna know something? There is actually a great movie that describes
Mm-hmm.
that. You've been saying that 3 times, like a couple of times now, and it keeps reminding me of these different movies that display that. So when you bring up, the military and how, we don't leave anyone behind and stuff like that, it comes to mind this movie I
Oh
saw.
yeah,
It's
I saw
called
that. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Hacksaw
Yes.
Ridge. Yep, it's a great movie with Andrew Garfield. I
Yes.
recommend everyone see it. Such an amazing movie. The movie about
Yes.
this
It was in World War
veteran
II.
who,
He
when was this
was a
guy?
religious
World War
his
II.
name is
Yeah.
Desmond Doss. I saw this movie. It's a great movie. And
Yeah.
he won the Medal of Honor.
Right.
And he
Yeah.
never fired a shot. I mean, he was against guns,
hmm
and yeah, so
He was against the violence period. Yeah, and he was a medic. And what he did was, in this place they called it Hagshaw Ridge. His entire, I think his entire platoon, or whoever, his entire group,
yes,
were, they were all down and shot at, and he pretty much was the
Right.
only one that didn't get,
right.
What's it called? He didn't get hit. So
It was the
he hid
Japanese, yeah.
from the Germans. The Japanese, right? So he hid from the Japanese until they left, thinking that there were nothing but dead bodies around, and
Right.
he got every soldier that was still alive.
Yes. So he
out of that situation and back home.
In great danger of his own life, he put himself in the line of fire, and he saved many lives. And in fact, that it's a really touching movie.
I think he saved,
and some of these people, in fact, even his
soldiers.
Commanding officer and his commanding sergeant was people that wanted him out of the military. They were trying to get rid of him because of his stance on not picking up a gun. And yeah, so he fought for his he wanted to fight for the country. He just didn't want to kill for the country, and he ended up saving the lives of the very people who wanted him out of the military. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
His name was actually Desmond Doss.
Yes.
It was World War II in the Pacific. So
yes.
That's what it was. The battle at Ridge on the island of Okinawa.
It's pretty amazing. But that's the heart of that's the unselfishness of that we have, and as human beings, we have different aspects of our human condition, and as a nation, I believe, I hope that we together will bring out the better in each other by cultivating that kind of unselfishness, that compassion, and that's why it's really partly why Social Security is the most effective government program, and it's why the Republicans have not been successful in trying to dismantle it and privatize it, giving it to Wall Street, because it belongs to all of us. Yes.
I feel like the only way they'll be able to do that is if somebody like Biden.
Oh yeah, that would be the only way. They would
make that
do
happen.
Some backdoor deal and screw us. That's why we can't allow that to happen. These conservative Democrats can sometimes do more damage than along with the Republicans than the Republicans can do alone. That's 100% correct. So, which is why we have to, that, and what I feel about like the ACA, so to speak, the Obamacare, they say, we'll improve on it. Let's improve on it. They would never have been able to touch the ACA if it belonged to everyone. If they insured Medicare for all, it has to belong to us all. Everybody in, nobody out. That is the only American way.
Right.
Anything short of that, that's why it's like for as far as Biden. Of course, let me just qualify. Of course, I will vote for Biden, even though he's not my choice. He's a corporatist, and he, whatever. I hope he can pull a rabbit out of a hat, only because Twitler is a monstrosity, and my opinion is when you're in a hole, stop digging, because we are really in this hole with this guy, and but we need more progressives to like.
How do you feel about those that say I'm not going to vote for either candidate?
I understand it, but I think that there are real practical consequences of Republican policies, and we're feeling the effects. Like, you don't feel them overnight. Like right now, we know the Republicans, regardless of what they're saying, they say, we will always protect your pre-existing conditions. That is nothing but a lie. They're in court right now attempting to overturn every regulation in the ACA. That's all the Affordable Care Act is. It's just regulations on the insurance companies that says you have to treat people as not just as hosts from which to suck profit and discard. You got to give them certain benefits. You have to see the one thing that happens a lot. Like I'll get an email from a right winger saying, "Oh, my insurance used to be $200 a month. Now it's $500." I mean, it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's $200 a month. It's ridiculous. But the fact is, before the ACA, the insurance company could sell you any crap, and they could call it insurance. It could be when you needed it, if you got sick, if you really got sick, you would go to the doctor. Yeah.
Here's the thing. When it comes to health insurance,
no,
that market,
it's not a market. It's your money or your life.
Where you should be profiting off.
Are you kidding? Right.
It's not a market. Yeah,
no,
it's not a market.
Right.
Yeah. So we shouldn't even have private insurance. It should be.
Right.
It just be Medicare for all, and just that's it. And aren't the doctors and stuff like that, and nurses, all they're saying is how frustrating it is to work with all these different insurance companies and be like, who don't want to pay for.
I mean, I know for a fact that my cousin, who is a nurse practitioner. I mean, these is of course just an anecdote, but they are sick of dealing with insurance companies. Yeah, they don't want to deal with them. It's annoying. You can't treat the patient, and the thing is. Yeah, it's a total scam. And really, it's the insurance company standing in your doctor's office denying care. They get rich denying care. They don't get rich paying claims. That's why the Republicans, when back in the day, they would say, death panels, the ACA is a death panel. We'll set up death panels, which is fucking ridiculous. But we already have death panels, and it's called the insurance racket, and they needlessly kill 35,000 Americans every single year for years. For how many Americans have died? And we all have a story.
Right.
And on top of it, the bankruptcies, they bankrupt 1 million people every year. Now it's down to 500,000 because of the ACA. But it's still one too many. It's one too many, man. And then they have a nerve, really. It's a needless, unnecessary racket that stands in your doctor's office and figures out ways to deny you care. That's what it's about. It's not about health. Give me a break.
Yeah. They have to think of it as the insurance company, literally walking in, and then you fill out that little paperwork, right? And then the doctor says, all right, give me a minute or whatever. And then they go through your paperwork. If you have insurance, they'll call the insurance company. They see whatever you need, right? They're like, hey, this person is here for X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that they're covered for that. Insurance companies are freaking think of a dude, just think of a guy walking in with a suit and a suitcase, right? Just going in there, going into the clerk's office and going to see the clerk and say, hey, I'm here to represent such and such. You go in there like, oh, this person's sick with this. Can you cover it? They say no. He has to pay for himself. Pay for it himself, but I'm not paying for it.
Mhm.
And then, right. And then and then you know what's really stupid when they say,
Right.
oh,
I know.
you can't see the doctor because they're out of your network. What are you talking about? What if
I
I
know.
got sick? What if I'm from Jersey and I got sick in
Right.
Florida? So I can't see it, and I have an insurance, so I
That's
can't see a
right.
doctor wherever
right.
doctor's close to me just because I got sick. What if I got sick? What if I got into a car accident? If I'm traveling and I got into a car accident in Pennsylvania, but my doctor's in freaking Jersey, so I can't. So what's gonna happen? So I have to suffer, bleed, and die till I get to my doctor that's in Jersey. What the hell? It's
shameful too. When
stupid.
what really gets me
so dumb,
so angry and sad too, is that the number one kind of campaign on GoFundMe is for medical care. If you ever want to cry, go on GoFundMe and look at the people begging for medical care. And most people they don't get anything from these campaigns. It's really a racket. And what also pisses me off, come to think of it, is when speaking of the media, then they'll do a story about some kid who's got leukemia and how they had to have a bake sale and that they have a GoFundMe page that so many people donated to, as if that's a good news story. Oh, look at how many people donated. It's such a generous spirit. Well, isn't that wonderful? But I'm sorry, that's not the frame that the corporate media should be exploring. They should do a story about how disgusting it is that we're the only country where people have to beg on GoFundMe for medical care. It's like, yeah.
You know what it's really like? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of like, have you ever been to like
I mean, I was on a cruise when I was like 15.
How do you
with
say
my parents.
those cruises? Right? Those. Okay, so I went on a cruise, right? And we went to Jamaica from Florida. And now when we went on the cruise, they took us into when we got off the boat, they took us to this van, and this van took us to like this resort, right? But I was not expecting this when I got off the cruise. We went through the most impoverished part of Jamaica to get to this resort. Right. When we got to the resort, it was beautiful. On the way there, I saw tremendous poverty. I was like, why is this place like, what is going on? Like, this is scary.
Wow.
Right. Then when we got to the resort, it's so beautiful. It looks so nice. It's so beautiful. The place looks so nice. XYZ. I was like, oh, hold on. I see what's going on. You're taking me. You just made this one area, this one part of Jamaica look so nice, right? You make it look so nice in the brochures and the videos and XYZ, but really behind the curtain, it is
all this
just like the most disgusting thing I ever seen. And I was just So I'm just like, so that's what I say. I think that's what the media is doing. When they show you, the GoFundMe, they only show you the good ones, but they don't show you the ones that that are struggling. I heard a story.
They don't make anything.
That said
they make nothing.
95%.
So you have to have some kind of. This is what's so gross. It's like, you have to have some. So your child has a sickness, and
publicity.
You hope that it's sort of like that show. There was a show like in the 50s called Queen for a Day, where women would go up there and they would tell a sob story about their rotten lives, and whoever had the worst life would get to be the queen for the day. And that's what it's like. Whoever has a story that will tear at your heartstrings. It's like standing on the side of the street, like with a sign saying, begging, please help me. And but now people are standing on the side of the internet superhighway with the sign, right? Saying, help me pay for my diabetes, or help me pay for my cancer treatments, or whatever it may be. It's gross.
and you won't be able to see it, and
Mm-hmm.
you won't be able to see it unless you actually go down that street. Like I believe
Mm-hmm.
that, like just like the superhighway that you said, right? Every dot
Right.
com or every dot net or every dot org, that's a street or that's an exit you could go down.
Right.
The only
Right.
way you'll be able to see those GoFundMe's that don't make any
That's
money
true.
at
Yeah.
all, or is if you actually go take that exit. And once you go, yeah, once you go into that exit, once you go into that, highway or that street, you'll see that these guys,
Mm.
there's
Yes.
so many
Yes.
people struggling out there. There's just so little that you could do. You know? But only the ones that get publicity, only the ones that get shown to a bunch of
Right.
different people,
That's true.
those are the ones that actually get the help.
Mhm.
You know, I said like once I get big enough, right? Once my show gets
Mhm.
big enough where
Mhm.
I get at least there is a
Mhm.
number in my head. I don't want to say which number it is because I'm still building up to that. But once I get that number in my head, I'm gonna
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
I'm gonna be going on
Mm.
GoFundMe if it's still around. I don't think it
Yeah.
should
For
be
other.
around,
Right.
but only
Yeah.
for those people that for other things,
Yeah.
but not for
It's
those type
gross.
of things. I think those type of things, if you are struggling
Disgusting.
with
Of course,
you're
like every
struggling with
other
medical
country. That's
stuff,
what happens
I
in
think the
in
government
England. I
should be
saw this
helping you with
a
it.
story about a young girl
Right.
who had something wrong with her legs. Some paralysis. They ended up all the equipment and that she needed to help her learn to walk and all the stuff that had and not one mention of how much it's going to cost. Is it on the here's a link to their GoFundMe? No, because she lives in England and it was all covered by the national health system. So if you're sick, that's the nature of health. This is what's so annoying too. With the Republicans are like, oh well, you just get the health care that you need. How the hell do you know? Nobody's walking around saying, I think I'll get cancer this year. I think I'll have a devastating illness. Like a friend of mine who she in her 30s she has a good job. She was professor at a CUNY school. Her husband is a carpenter, union carpenter. So they have health insurance. She's got her own health insurance. He's got his. So they had good health insurance. All of a sudden, she had some like weird kidney failure out of the blue, right? Like just some weird thing that happened. She got sick. She was in the ICU for a month, unconscious. She finally pulled out of it. She almost died. And in spite of her insurance, her husband's insurance, she still owes over $250,000 to the medical whatever because of doctors walking in, doctors who's in network, who's out of network. She's like, what are you going to do? Spend a month in the ICU and get back to me if you love your private health insurance. I keep hearing on corporate media how everybody loves their private health insurance. I've never met somebody who loves their private health insurance. I have met many people. Everybody I know has a story about private health insurance, how it sucks, how it's cruel, how it's ridiculous.
Right. You know what
that's
they always
the
say?
doctor, right? Exactly.
You know what they always say? Like, I love my doctor. I don't want to lose my doctor. Well, you
that's
don't.
the difference, right? You're right.
That's the doctor. That's not your insurance. Right. What's like? Tell me the name.
Right.
Tell me the name of the person that picks up the phone when you call.
Right.
Tell me her birthday.
Absolutely.
Tell me if she has a family.
Yes.
Do you know
that's
her?
it. It's
Do
like
you know that
people they confuse it on corporate media. They'll say, "Oh, they love their private health insurance." I mean, one of the bugs up my ass was Willie Geist on MSNBC. I don't know if he's getting paid or if he lost a bet. And he had to mention every single day how much people love their private health insurance. I was like, every single day he would say, well, people don't want to lose their private health insurance with Medicare for all. It's like,
well, they can't really say anything. You know why?
Yeah.
They can't say anything because they're getting paid by the same people. You see these commercials.
Yeah.
You see Edna. You see what was the shit.
They're paying like during the Democratic debate. Bernie, he mentioned how the health insurance lobby was buying ads on the Democratic debate. So while they're knocking and criticizing Medicare for all, while the other Democrats are pretending to be so concerned about the private health insurance that you're going to lose. Nobody likes it. It's exactly like you're saying. It's people like their doctors. They like getting health care. They don't like their insurance companies. I mean, I got the flu. You were talking about the flu earlier. Last year, I got the flu. It was the first time I didn't get a flu shot, and I actually got the flu, and it sucked. And I was very sick, and then I went to the emergency room because I had 104 fever, and then they said, "Oh, you got the flu." And about a couple of weeks later, it came back. In the middle of the night, I had another very high fever, and I was really sick. And I called the doctor, and he was like, "Yeah, sometimes it comes back. It's not quite, you didn't quite get it out of your system, and it took over again." And the doctor called in another prescription for Tamiflu, and the fucking insurance company wouldn't pay for it. They said, "Oh, you just had it. You only had it a couple of weeks. You got to wait until this date in order to get." And I'm like, "Well, I'm sick now. Like, I wanted the flu, and I had to end up paying or out of pocket for the prescription, which was $150. But that adds up, and that's some people don't have $150 laying around, and I didn't want to pay for that. You're paying for insurance, but that's how they make their money, really denying care. And that's a small story. And there are millions of those stories. And then you have the other stories that are horrible, where I don't know if you saw recently, there was a person who was very sick at a hospital, and the hospital, she wanted to get treated at this certain hospital, but her insurance said no, because for money. And then they suggested she go start a social media campaign too, right? I mean, can you fucking believe this? It's disgusting. They actually said, yeah. So in the middle of your cancer, you want to, you got to make videos. Easy, right? You want to go on, and then that's the thing. Like I was saying with my friend who was really sick, as she's trying to recover, get her life back after almost dying, she's got the fucking collection agencies. Ring, 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 ring. Oh, where's my VIG? Your money or your life. That's what it's. That really is what it is. I mean, I'm looking on GoFundMe right now. Help Siona fight spinal muscular dystrophy. This is a little baby here only in America. Sweet 8-month-old baby girl. I have initiated this page on behalf of this family. I mean, it's just one horrible story after another about Americans begging on GoFundMe for healthcare.
Yep.
So anyway, there's other. Yes. Yep. It's just egregious. So
there's other stuff too. Yeah. So how do we? All right. So what are you saying? So how? Like I keep saying over and over and over and over and over again. I'm gonna keep saying. I'm gonna keep asking you.
We need to
keep fix it.
Talking
what do
about
we need to do
the Patreon. This is my opinion. I don't know. You might have a different opinion, but I think all of this is it's about patriotism. Okay. What kind of country do we? When you explain to Republicans, and in fact, years ago when the ACA was being debated by the Supreme Court, I went to Washington with Mike Malloy, who's a progressive radio talk show host, and I was working with him, helping him do his show remotely from the Radio Row down there. That was sponsored by Families USA, which is a pro Medicare for all healthcare organization. So while we were doing the show, I would go out. There were a handful of teabaggers at the time. This was before Trump. So at the time they were called Tea Partiers, right? So there's a few of them. There were maybe like 15, 20. And they got a lot of media attention. But I ended up talking to these people over a couple of days. And these are right-wingers, right? And you might have even seen a picture of this lady. It became kind of a viral photo of this woman yelling with a big hand, like a Mickey Mouse hand, that said, keep your government hands off my Medicare."
Okay.
Which is, it's sort of like, yes, exactly. So this is the lady that was holding the sign that said, "Keep your government hands off my Medicare." That's how ridiculous they are. You don't even know that's a government plan, right? So I would talk to her over days. So nice, and that's what's so sad. Yeah. And I was speaking to her, and she's like, "Well, nobody says that people shouldn't get health care. We just think, nobody says if you're sick, you don't go to the emergency room. Like if you get to them and you talk to them one-on-one, they're not saying, oh, they're trying to be nice and kind, decent people. But it's like we're talking about, they think that some people are taking advantage, and it really is a lot about fear of them losing what they have, what they think they have. Oh, they got their Medicare. They don't want anything to change, even if that means that everybody gets health care. You know what I mean? They got theirs, and oh well. So I feel this is why it's important to have media. And what I was bringing up earlier, right-wingers understand this. This is why they are prolific on media, large and small. They fund their media. Left-wingers need to do that, and we have to reclaim it as a patriotic imperative. You have to frame it like that. What kind of a country are we building? And if you want a country that works for all, everything has to belong to all. And you could put it in the frame of Social Security. FDR created Social Security, that it belongs to all of us. And they did it purposefully. And FDR said, so no damn politician can scrap my program. So it's everybody in, nobody out. That's how you have to do it. And you have to fight with the moral and patriotic high ground that you have. And I believe that you have to fight with, on that framework. And you have the moral imperative. You have the patriotic imperative. And you just, don't back down. That's it, really.
On I was watching the Jimmy Dore show once, and on one of the episodes he said that he responded to Trump, right? And it was like, because I think Trump was talking about giving people $1,200. And then he was like, "Oh,
right, absolutely."
So I guess these conservatives are for socialism, socialism now. And then someone responded to him saying, "It's not socialism; it's Americanism."
Right.
And I was like, "My dude, like, okay." So he was just like, "All right, so you want to call socialism Americanism?" So all right, fine. So that's what we should do now. I think Kyle Kalinske heard the same thing and saw the same thing.
Right.
And said it on the same show too. All right.
Well, they've been they use the term socialism, communism. I mean, they interchange it. Nobody's calling for the state to own the apparatus of private companies and start making cars, start making clothes, That's not what we're talking about. We have a socialist society. We already do. And except it's for the rich, just like MLK said, there's socialism for the rich and there's rugged individualism for the poor. And we've had these programs, FDR, the policies of the New Deal. That's socialism. It's really, like you're saying, it's the frame. It's American. Just like when Sweden, if you're unemployed for a year, the government puts you to work. If you want a job, you can't find a job in the private industry. There's government industries that you can work for, and we used to have that here. the WPA, the CCC. These are patriotic imperatives that what kind of a country do we want? Do we want a democracy that works for all? Then you have to have a functioning and economically vibrant and informed middle class that has a seat at the table. And what we have now is not a functioning democracy. It's not. They've done studies. The wants and needs of the working class have a statistically insignificant effect on government policy. That means that it's not working for the working class. They don't care. That's why, 90% of Americans can want background checks on gun purchases, and we don't get it because it's not working for the working class. Mm-hmm.
You know what's really... I think it's mostly because our politics... Well, it's mostly...
On gun purchase. Yeah,
right,
I mean, that's
so 90% of
that's a given.
Americans want background checks, right? No. On gun
because
purchase.
They're not working.
Right.
They are owned by
Why aren't
the
our
big moneyed
politicians
interests,
doing that?
including the NRA. It is the ground zero of all of this, that what we're talking about is definitely money in politics. There has to be a public financing of campaigns. That's another reason we're all out of our goddamn minds here. The campaign never stops, and government and the politicians are bought. There's no doubt.
I think Cenk Uygur, not even I think, but
yes,
TYT and Cenk Uygur started up. If you're listening to this, started a. I'm talking to the audience, not only you, but he started a group called Wolfpack. Basically, what they do is they do that, right? They want to get money out of politics, and the way they want to get money out of politics is having states call for a constitutional convention for the elimination of getting money out of politics. Now, I actually did that, right? I actually got with Wolfpack of New Jersey.
That's good.
And I was able to get 2 of my state legislators to sign on to the bill calling for a convention, right, to get money out of politics. And New Jersey is now one of the states that has called for it. Okay, so we got it passed in our state. So if you're listening to this, if you're any of our fans, terrorist fans, and everything like that, I encourage you and implore you to join. You guys, listen. We can't just talk about this. There has to be action behind it also, right? So, if you're out there listening, if you really care about these issues, if you really care about getting money out of politics, you gotta join. You gotta join Wolfpack of your particular state and get into that group and fight to get money out of politics. And you also have to spread the word about it, because there might be friends of yours that want to join in too. Also, you have to think about if you want to run for office, because we need more progressives to get in there, to get into office and to fight for our ideas. Because if we don't have that, you won't get we won't get what we're fighting for. Okay. Now we talked about this before, right? We talked about this, but I asked you if you was gonna vote for Biden or you gonna vote for this. I am one of the people. I'm one of those people that I'm not gonna vote for anyone. Because I'm sticking to my principles. I do not believe for 1 second that the Democratic Party nor Joe Biden is going to fight for any. It's really sad.
No, I hear you. You're not alone. Unfortunately, obviously, I agree that Biden is. He's really part of the problem. He's somebody who's been in government for 40 years. He's not a progressive. He's been advocating. He's been really an antagonist to progressivism, pushing policies that have made this time in American history possible. They paved the ground that made Twitler possible. This income disparity, this upward immobility, that made Trump possible. We wouldn't have, if we had a functioning middle class, this is exactly what FDR talked about. This is the stuff of dictatorship. Economic insecurity is how dictators are made. And Biden, he's problematic. And I get in trouble on my show from people send me emails. Oh, you're dividing the party. Yeah, it's exactly.
The party's already divided. Exactly. The party's already divided. Ever since Bernie got into, the party's already divided. Now you could, it's been divided, and we've been fighting for this for way longer than Bernie's. Matter of fact, Bernie's been fighting for it, but like we just noticing him now. We just noticed him. So, but all these people that has been supporting Biden, we've been feeling this way for a long time, longer than we can't even remember. And it just, and everything that we're asking for, everything that progressives have been asking for, it's not unreasonable.
Right.
It's not unreasonable. And we're not even asking for too much. We're not even asking for too much at all.
Well, the Democratic Party needs to be the party of FDR.
Stuff again, that we can't afford.
Party of FDR. And the thing that's so frustrating is that, the only reason FDR wasn't elected a fifth time was because he was dead, not because he pandered to the right wing. But this is part of I wish Bernie had been more of a fighter instead of my friend Joe. He he really, I don't know, whatever. He's Right. But as far as voting for Biden, now my opinion is there's so much going on with Twitler. He is such a monstrosity, and every day that he's in office, he makes it harder to overcome and get back to anywhere where we need to be, even in the same ballpark. So he's the way that they're packing judges onto the courts. We should be very alarmed. Every authoritarian, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. These authoritarians, they follow the same pattern. Exactly what Twitler is doing right now is what the Nazis did, is what Erdogan does. They take over the courts. So when we work our asses off, right? And let's say with Wolfpack, we get to a point where we're going to put a constitutional amendment on the ballot, and then what will happen? The Republicans will take it and they will sue, and they'll take it to the courts and even up to the Supreme Court, and then the court will deem it unconstitutional for some effing reason, right? But I'm just using that as an example.
Well,
but if right now,
then we have to counter.
They have
just,
power
keep it there and just say
a Twitler in the office. They're packing the courts with all of judges. Same thing that happened in Nazi Germany. Right. They took over legitimately and legally, right? Hitler first tried taking over Germany with a revolution, the beer hall putsch, and he ended up in jail. And years later, he came back and they said, well, that didn't work. Let's do it legitimately. And they found co-conspirators like Hindenburg. He was World War II historian Christopher Browning calls Mitch McConnell our Hindenburg, the gravedigger of American democracy, packing courts with not people who care about the law. They are loyalists it's if you have the court. So what would happen in Nazi Germany before they even overthrew everything and it was all off the table? Everything, there was no bets were held anymore with the Nazis. They pack the courts. So when when there was something would happen or whatever, they would be sued. It would get to a court. And the court, it was a given because they were nullifying any opposition. And that's exactly what they're doing, what Mitch McConnell's doing. You know what he came back to the Senate this week, not to pass any pandemic relief for the American people, but to pack more flunkies onto the court. And these flunkies they're deemed unqualified by the American Bar Association. That's why the goddamn Republicans are now out there on fascist Fox News and all their other Diamond and Silk fucking shows saying how the American Bar Association is fake and it's a liberal agenda and blah, blah, blah. This is what they do. So they now that's my opinion with why I will be voting for Biden. It's not just he's not anywhere in the ballpark what I would like, but you gotta, when you're in a hole, you stop digging, right? And with Biden, there's other things. Like, for example, with let's say I don't eat meat, whatever, with I'm not gonna go on and tell you or anybody what to do, but on the for example, what Trump just did is they removed all the FDA inspectors off of the line of so in the pork factories, now there's he's calling this an essential business, but he did this before the pandemic. Okay. There used to be 6 FDA inspectors on the line in these slaughterhouses. Now there are 0 inspectors. Okay. Now the food inspection is you call up, hey, you got any pig penises, feces, toenails in your meat today? No. Okay, great, thanks. Hang up. That's the state of food inspection in this country. And all you got to do is Google it. The FDA inspectors came out as whistleblowers saying this is outrageous. You're endangering the food supply. And they also sped up the murder line. So now the pigs are getting killed inhumanely. And this is what happens when you have these fascist, corporatist conservatives in charge. They don't give a shit. So everything is affected. I care about animals. I hate factory farms. The fact that they're abused in factory farms. I know that most people, even who eat meat, they don't want animals to be abused. So, but Republicans, their remedy for abuse on factory farms is to make it illegal to videotape the abuse on factory farms. I kid you not. So all of these things, from the food supply being tainted to the animals being abused, to them not, now chickens used to be, you had to have enough space for them to open their wings. Now that's not a thing. Let them fucking cram them in there. Who cares, right? You're nothing. People are nothing. Animals are nothing. That's why the people at the slaughterhouses who work in these meat factories, those people, they're being ordered back to work in spite of the pandemic being rampant in these places, because those people are just like one rung higher on the ladder up from the animals who are being slaughtered. You're nothing. If they could put you in the goddamn mill too and chop you up, they would do it. So they don't. Mm-hmm. I mean,
my counter argument to that,
there is shit like this going
horrific. On. That is terrible. That is 100% terrible.
It's
right.
It's a nightmare.
When conservatives, I understand. When conservatives take over,
it's a nightmare.
Right, a lot of stuff goes terrible. It's a nightmare. I get it. I totally get it. But now, it's a nightmare, right? It's a living nightmare, right? It's a living hell. Now, my only counter to this is this, right?
Yeah.
Because how did we get Biden? How do we always get our politicians? You know what I'm saying? They're gonna keep doing the same thing,
right? But they don't.
They're just gonna keep giving us
right.
These options.
I hear you.
It's always gonna hold on, but it's always gonna be the lesser of two evils. And if Biden wins, it's gonna keep going that way because they're gonna say because the only ones that are complaining are progressives right now, right? We're the only ones complaining about our choice, right? So if Biden wins, even if Hillary
I would rather
won,
be pushing Hillary left than fighting this fire hose of fascism.
If
but
Biden
I hear you. I get it. That's why I'm also torn. I have had to.
Right. My whole thing is this. Hold on. My whole thing is this, right? If Biden wins, right? This is what breaks it for me. If Biden wins, I know for sure that for the next 10 to 12 years, the progressive platform is dead. Completely dead. Because they could just say, I don't have to listen to you. I really don't have to listen to you. You know, that we don't, the progressives will, I mean, not the progressives, the Democratic, the corporate Democrats and the Democratic Party would say, we don't have to listen to you because we could win without you.
Right.
You know, we could win without you and we don't need you. And if you don't want to vote for us, fine.
I hear you.
And I'm like, all right, fine. If you feel as though you don't need us to win, then I'm not going to vote for you. I'll even take the extra step to vote against you. Right? To make sure that you need me, you really need me, right? Because if not, they're just gonna keep doing this. It was Lawrence O'Donnell who said that the only way that you would get the Democratic Party or any Democrat to listen to you or to listen to the so-called left. He said this in a video. Not sure exactly which video, but I can find it. He said that the only way that a Democrat will listen to you, especially a Democrat in office, will listen to you, if you could show them that you're willing to vote against them. He said, if you don't, because what we're asking for is unreasonable. What we're asking for, I know is reasonable and it's doable. Yeah, we can't afford it. We can't afford everything that we're asking for. And I know the people who hate the government are those who feel that they're not getting anything from the government. You know what I'm saying? You feel you're not getting anything from them, you don't want them. And that's how I feel about it. I know for sure. I know this in my bones to core that if the Democrats win, okay, they're gonna look to the left and say, F you guys, we don't need you. We can do what we're doing. If you're not going to vote for us, that's fine. We'll vote to these people now, on the right or the center right
is already courting
to get some of them to vote for us.
They turn into Republicans. This is what's so annoying about Democrats. No, you never hear Republicans saying, hey, I can get Democrats to vote for me too. Look.
Exactly.
No. They don't fucking do that. No.
To vote for me. Yep.
No.
Never. Not one time have they ever. Not even Trump has ever said.
No.
I could
get only Republicans.
For me. You haven't heard Bush say that? No. You haven't heard anybody like Romney say that?
I mean, Democrats. Yes.
Not one.
Yes. No, that's what they do. That's why I mean, like Amy Klobuchar. She's like, I can. They think that throwing Republican policies at Republicans will turn them. I can build a big coalition of voters and no, they don't.
Right. No. And then you know what else you never hear Republicans say?
About these
I could work with
bastards.
Democrats. They never say that. But we're always
right. Exactly.
And we're always the one that has to be like, we could work with the other side. We're like, no, I don't want to work with the other side. They don't work with me. So why should I work with them? No, I'm here. If I was to run, I'm here to kick y'all asses. I want to get what I want, and you're gonna have to eat it. And that I'm not here to play games with you. I'm not here to shake your hands. I'm not here to play golf with you. I'm not here to be friends with you. No, I have my team. You have your team. When you have your team, you always shove the finger to us. So guess what's going to happen now? We're going to shove the finger in your face. And on top of that, we're going to do what our constituents want us to do. Okay? Our constituents want background checks. We're going to give background checks. Okay? Our constituents want Medicare for all, like 70%. we're gonna get Medicare for all. So guess what? So now these people are going to say, oh, the Democrats are giving me Medicare for all, which so many people, like 70%. So we got 70% of voters already agreeing with us. They're happy with us. We got 90% want background checks. Now we got 90% of the country agreeing with us. That's more votes for us. You know what I'm saying? There's more votes for us because we are giving what our constituents
No, I hear you. And that's why I'm torn too. I am, but I just can't vote. Well, I just don't want to, I don't know, live.
I'm not torn at all. I don't know the future. I already see what's going to happen. Because if I just see, because that's how I argue. I'm like, listen.
Yeah,
all right, you're like, I don't want to change mine or anything. Right there. I'm saying I'm just giving my point of view. Okay, listen. You're saying we're in a foxhole, right? In a foxhole. You say, don't dig. Right? You don't want to keep making things work and dig deeper.
You're not digging at all. I'd
rather not dig then. I'm not digging. That's it. I'm just not digging.
I get it. I when I'm hearing you, I'm like, yeah. And then, you got a point. You definitely do.
People argue with me and fight with me. That's why I'm like, listen. Right. I just don't want. Right. Yeah, I just don't want the Democrats.
No, I hear you. Well, that's why
giving me
it's
the bird and telling me you have
need more progressives and we need people. I'm sorry. Like I don't have your show, my show, people to get this word out that about what we are truly up against. You don't hear it on the corporate media. They're not doing these stories. It's how many stories every time I turn on the corporate media? It's like, what's Twitler's tone today? What is he thinking? What has he tweeted? And who gives a shit? And then they pop a camera in front of him and he lets the lies just rip. But they're not doing any stories about what we're talking about how the middle class is now below 50%. Yeah.
I can guarantee that if CNN or MSNBC, they took every day, once a day, went on to GoFundMe, right, and found one of these people who are looking for help, some help with their medical bills and stuff like that, and just give them some freaking airtime.
Well, they don't.
They will get
media
that dynamic would change.
In like they maintaining the status quo. They just don't. With MSNBC, there is no liberal media. I mean, I'm the liberal media, really. My show, right? No. They don't. Then they'll. It's
they don't even.
They have a vested interest in keeping everything the same, except they don't like the chaos. I think. Well, I mean, honestly, they like the ratings. And if Twitler wins again, it'll be fine for them. They'll fundraise off it. The Democratic National Committee will fundraise off of it, and that win or lose, they will still continue to win. And that it's so shocking to me, though. What is shocking is that the Democratic, well, I mean, not shocking. I guess I had more hope, though, that they learned the lesson of 2016. I really had a hope that they might have, but obviously they didn't. They still want, it's like these people in the ivory tower, the super delegates, the ones, the pundits, the Hillary Clinton pundits, yeah. Oh no, they are. They want they like their access. They like their cushy jobs. They like their.
I feel as though they're
they
working
like
together.
The status quo. I don't see. They're not FDR Democrats. These are. They really are the corporate wing of the Democratic Party is really They're like sane Republicans. You know what I mean? They're not progressives. They're not FDR Democrats. No, they're Republicans. They have, look, ACA, Obamacare is the Republican healthcare. Right. It's Republican healthcare plan. They're just Republicans without, the overt racism and and the chaos. So I know, I hear you. And sometimes that's why I get.
Yep. It's Republican light versus Republican. I think I heard this before. Someone say I think it was Jimmy Dore who said this. He was like, you you want to go to you want Republicans vote, right?
Right.
So you go Republican light.
No, they're going to vote for the real
Who-
Republican.
And who do you think
Well,
Republicans
that's what
vote
Harry
for when
Truman
it's
said back.
Republican light
I
and
mean, this
Republican?
famous Harry Truman quote:
Republicans vote
"If you give a voter a
they
choice between a
vote for
Republican and a Republican and a Democrat who acts like a Republican, they will pick the genuine article every time." So, yeah. He was warning them, do not act like Republicans. Just be a Democrat. Be an FDR Democrat.
Right.
And yeah, and that's how and this is what's so frustrating about the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party of FDR is a winning party. That FDR won every single state, but won in 4 landslide elections. So maybe it was 2 on one of those elections, but the fact is most he won these amazing landslides, and that's because he actually promoted policies and pushed policies and championed policies that built the middle class, that worked for the working class, and and uses bully pulpit to to talk about the economic royalists and the big moneyed interests who are now exactly what FDR said. They are reaching out to control government itself, and they it's not just reaching out, they are controlling government itself. So okay. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's switch gears real quick. Let's switch gears. So
what?
Tara, we had a mighty discussion, talked about a lot, but you know what we don't know?
Well, I'm from New York. I was
you.
born in Brooklyn, raised on Staten
Tara,
Island, sort of like raised
where
by
are
a
you
pack
from?
of wild dogs, I guess. And my mother was a nun before she was my mother, and also my father. Yes. And then my father was a garbage man. So, what else could I be?
We would hope so, right?
Me. Yes. I'm from New York. I love New York. I like New York a lot.
So you
I appreciate the diversity of New York, and everything about New York is really, I love that it's a democratic city. I used to live on Staten Island. That's where my parents bought a house there when I was young, and of course I was living with them, and I grew up there. That's the only Republican borough in the 5 boroughs, but there are some normal people out there. But I live in Queens, New York, and I don't know. I mean, I work as I'm a comedian. I do my show. I started the website Republican Dirty Tricks back in 2009 as sort of like a soapbox. I mean, I was always railing against Republicans and conservatism in general, and I am a real history buff. I love history in general, and to me it's like the warnings from history are so clear, and I also don't know, have a sense of, I feel the injustice of this society, and it breaks my heart really that there's so much potential here in the country. Just this is the only country founded on an idea, not on bloodlines. I mean, regardless of what the Republicans are, they want it to be all about straight white men, but this country was founded on an idea and of happiness and e pluribus unum. Those are pretty high mighty ideals, and so it's heartbreaking, really. Anyway, is that
so?
Well, I think it's also one of the best remedies
what is
for
it that you love
feeling
about what you do?
For anger, for depression, for the feeling.
Okay, so, all right. So, Tara, tell us,
Yes.
where can people find you?
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, really, for having me on. I do a show every Saturday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern at the RDT Daily Facebook and YouTube channels. And that is, it's called Tara Buster with Tara Devlin, like filibuster. And yeah, it's on Progressive Voices as well. You can, I guess, just Google my name. You can get it on that way, but also on YouTube/C/RDT Daily Media. That'll take you right to the YouTube page, and we can take it from there. I hope you join us. We have a live taping at 6 p.m. Eastern every Saturday, but also I'll do some shows during the week. My goal is we have a Patreon page at patreon.com/Tara Devlin. So the Patreon, ultimately we want to do a daily show. So the more patrons we get, the more we will meet that goal where we'll be able to talk about the progressive policies that built the middle class to begin with on a daily basis. That's what we need to do. Our message has to get out there, and it has to be ubiquitous, just like the right wingers. So yeah, I hope that you guys join us. We have a great crew of people that hang out every week. We're building a community. I love it. And please join us.
Awesome. And where can they find you on Twitter?
On my Twitter is Real Tara Devlin.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys know my Twitter handle is Draft Night Pod. Just put at Draft Night Pod. We have the same logo and everything like that. Tara, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you
really
so
fun
much.
Conversation.
Yeah. I thank you so much. It was great. I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome.
All
we would
right.
love to have you on in the distant future.
Yeah. Distant.
No, distant.
In the very distant future.
Yeah.
I'm only kidding.
I only distant because there is this commercial I keep seeing on YouTube. I think Quibi.
Right.
The first thing that this guy says, if you ever seen the show Reno 911,
Yeah.
I think the sheriff, the guy who always wears the high shorts.
Yes.
He goes, "Welcome to the distant future." Right? So,
That's funny.
Yeah. So like every time so as soon as I said that was like the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah. No, I have a friend who was an actress on that show, Mary Birdsong. Nice. She was the one. She played Officer Kimball on. Yeah. She's great. Awesome. She's a great actress. She's funny. She's amazing. Yeah.
All right. So we'll stay in contact.
Yeah, definitely.
Everybody follow us. Check us out.
Yeah.
And I hope you have a great time.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. No problem.
Bye.